welcome you to our regular council meeting for September 12th. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And council, I'd like to adopt the minutes of August 22nd from the committee of the whole, the special council meeting of the 22nd, the regular council meeting of the 22nd, the special council meeting of the 31st. Can I have a resolution to that effect, please? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. We're moving on. Okay, a motion to adopt tonight's agenda, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you. Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Motion's carried. So we're moving straight into some public hearings. We have our first public hearing. Can you hear me? Is this on? First public hearing is to do with the zoning bylaw amendment at 1222-3 Saunders Crescent, bylaw number 2016-32. CAO, moving that to our development services, please, Mr. McIntosh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing to rezone the property at 1222-3 Saunders Crescent from RSD1 to RSD1I, which is RSD1 intensive. Essentially, it allows a smaller lot size, which isn't at issue here because the property has already been created under the RSD1 zoning. So essentially what is happening here is the RSD1I allows a slightly larger floor area ratio, which means you can put 260 square feet extra on the site than you could under the RSD1, which has a 0.45 FAR, and this would be going to a 0.5 FAR. All the other zoning regulations essentially are the same.
Okay, so that's it, Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now there's opportunities for the public here, and I have to read the public hearing statement. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. During this public hearing, anyone who believes that his or her interest is affected by the proposed development will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaws that are the subject of this hearing. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received concerning the subject bylaws have been made available to the public. Council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaw will take place when the bylaw is considered after the conclusion of the public hearing. At that time, any questions of staff will be for clarification purposes only. I will be inviting the public to come forward and present their comments. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record. Speakers are encouraged to limit their remarks to 5 minutes and should include all of the relevant information in their presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded for all persons to speak a second or third time once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. So we've already had the Director of Development Services introduce the item. So I'm going to ask for the first time.
No.
Is there?
I think written correspondence.
Okay. Is there any written correspondence? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there was one piece of written correspondence that was received last week from Jennifer McEwen and John Whitfield. The correspondence was opposed to the development, but the Director of Development Services is going to speak to one of the questions that they had within this letter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The submitter advised us that in our zoning bylaw there was in fact an error, and our development regulations in the bylaw at the moment say minimum floor area ratio of 0.5 as opposed to maximum floor area ratio of 0.5, which was a bit of a surprise to us. So we went back and looked through the changes to the bylaws to see what had happened, and it turns out there was an administrative error, and it was introduced when we did a housekeeping amendment to increase the lot coverage from 30% to 40%. And when that administrative error or that change was made to the bylaw increasing the maximum lot coverage, there was supposed to be no change in the wording or the amount of the minimum floor area or maximum floor area, but that piece of text somehow was written in there even though the bylaw said amend the lot coverage from 30% to 40%. That little piece of text underneath was in there in error, and so that got copied into our zoning bylaw. But that has been changed. It was an administrative error. It was not a bona fide bylaw change. So it is, in fact, the maximum floor area ratio of 0.5. And we appreciate that error being pointed out to us.
Thank you. So, is there any other correspondence?
No, thanks. No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I guess we're ready. Anybody in the audience like to present their views, please? Yes, you come forward, sir.
Thank you.
Name
Your
and
Worship
address,
Council, John Whitfield, 12225 Saunders. My wife is the person that pointed out the error in the wording of the bylaw. I have since spoken with the individual concerned owning the property. We have no further issues with it, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else like to present their comments, please? And for a third time, would anybody in the audience like to present their views on this topic? Okay, guess that's it. So I'll call for a motion to adjourn this public hearing, please. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Trainer, all in favor? Thank you, motion's carried. So now we'll move to our second public hearing. And this is for the official community plan amendment 9600 Victoria Road bylaw number 2016-33 and zoning bylaw amendment for 9600 Victoria Road bylaw number 2016-034. Now we'll be, development services will be called upon shortly, and then I'll go through the same procedure I did earlier. So, Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, this is an OCP amendment to change the designation of the property at 9600 Victoria Road to medium industrial and to rezone it to M2 heavy industrial. And this is a particular piece of property that did not have zoning before. It used to be a piece of road right-of-way that was closed. The road was closed, and it was a title was created, and the property is going to be sold to the adjacent property. And in order to make it usable, it has to have an OCP designation and a zoning designation, so that is what this is about. And it is zoning and designated at the same as all the adjacent property in the area.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have, there's no correspondence that you have on this?
I have received none, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll read do I have to read that again? Yes. Okay, I don't have to read the public statement again, so we'll move ahead. Anybody would like to present their views on this topic? Yes, sir, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Name and address, please.
My name's Gord Thorne. I live at number 8, 10605 Cedar Avenue, and it's close to the James Bay Industrial Site, Mr. Mayor. Also, good evening, staff. I'm sorry I didn't mention you. In the council report of August the 22nd, 2006, quote in part, over the long term, it is envisioned that James Lake Industrial Area will evolve toward a cleaner service, commercial, and light industrial sector. This transformation will help to alleviate transportation problems and air and noise pollution already being identified as a concern by adjacent residential neighborhoods. My question, Mr. Mayor, is why not take this opportunity to designate light industrial, as we would prefer not to have M2 heavy industrial? I have a second question, Mr. Mayor, if you'd permit me, and that is, in the zoning bylaw, I cannot find a land use description for medium industrial. Presently, there is M1 light industrial, M2 heavy industrial, M3 agricultural industrial, and M4 resource industrial. And my final question to you, Mr. Mayor and Council, is what is the new owners intending to do with the property? May I take my chair, or do you want me here at the podium?
Okay, we can ask those questions, thank you, sir, of staff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more, somebody else?
I have no email for you.
Okay, is there anybody else like to make a comment on this particular issue? For a third time, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment on this issue? that, I'll declare this public hearing closed. Have a motion to that effect, please. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Carlson, thank you. All in favor? Carried. So we move ahead now to the rest of our agenda. We have no delegations, correct?
No.
Okay. So this is a time frame here where we have 15 minutes for the public to make a comment on any highlighted agenda item that's in front of you. So if you'd like to make a comment on any of those items that are highlighted, please come forward and state your name and address, please. Okay. John, go ahead.
My name is John Russo. I live at 15005 Washington Avenue. Our meeting, or our point on the agenda is variance of our front setback that we're asking for on Dunham Crescent. I'd just like to say what a pleasure it's been to work with Development Services on this issue. You guys have a really young, progressive staff downstairs that have facilitated us getting this through tonight. And we thank their confidence in our ability to pull this project off. Thank you very much. And we look forward to building more homes in this community.
Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure to hear those kind of comments. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, with that, we'll move forward. Okay, now we're coming to my report. I noticed that I put it in a smaller font, so it means there's more words here tonight. But, anyway, in the spring of 2016, many communities in British Columbia faced the possibility of school closures. The District of Summerland faced the possibility of losing Trout Creek School. The provincial government recognized that these closures would have tremendous negative impact on the economic development of these communities and implemented the Rural Education Enhancement Fund to support the schools while assigning MLA Linda Larson to head a task force to develop a rural education strategy. The provincial government recognized that the local school is the center of the community and the local economy. Summerland's mayor and council were keenly aware of the significant impact to the community should schools close, and they recognize that schools in smaller communities play a much larger role than simply providing education for children. They're frequently a community hub and an integral aspect of attracting families to ensure community growth and development. Recognizing that further steps are required throughout the province to reduce administrative costs of school delivery, Summerland's mayor and council has approached the provincial government with an idea for a pilot project. The proposed project would merge administrative services of the municipality with the administrative services of a new local school board. The concept is currently in a preliminary introductory stage, and council expects to discuss it further at the upcoming UBCM conference in Victoria. The proposed pilot project would entail the recreation of a local school board in Summerland, a model similar to that prior to 1996, when Summerland and Penticton school boards were amalgamated. The difference would be that the municipal council and the Summerland school board would integrate services such as finance, administrative and work staff, equipment, facilities, etc., rather than operating two separate facilities. Council is excited about the opportunity to discuss the idea with the community, political leaders, teachers, and other stakeholders to determine whether moving forward with the project would be a benefit to Summerland. This idea has not been discussed with the Minister of Education yet, and extensive consultation is required, as there are many unanswered questions that would require resolution before determining if the project was feasible and desirable, such as investigation into any potential impact on labor force, teachers, school support staff, and other factors that would be identified as the idea of the project was developed. Summerland believes they have an opportunity to pilot this project to determine whether integration of administrative services of Municipal Hall and the School Board Office would be a model that other communities could follow, potentially decreasing administrative costs and channeling school funding into the schools. I'd like to add that I don't think it's on any copies you have there, that this will take some time, and if there is any potential in the changeover it would not occur until the next election cycle. So it's something that's going to take some time to get to, and we'll be working towards that end, and we'll have a little more information, I guess, after our UBCN meetings, hopefully. Okay, thank you. That's it. Maybe I should mention we'll issue a press release tomorrow.
We'll formalize it in the press release tomorrow.
We'll be issuing a formal press release on it tomorrow, but you have the basic information right now. CEO.
Okay, CIO report. I've just got two things to discuss today, Mayor and Council. First of all, I see that Kaylee Hall is here, and I think most of you have met Kaylee so far, but Kaylee is sitting there with Director of Works and Utilities, and Kaylee is, of course, our Community Development Coordinator, and is here tonight as we consider the cultural plan, as the cultural plan would have a big impact with Kaylee. So we welcome Kaylee to her first council meeting. In an upcoming council meeting in October, we'll be bringing Kaylee forward with a more detailed report on our work plan and some of the major things we're going to focus on in the next couple of months. So welcome, Kaylee. The second that I wanted to talk to council about, just a follow-up from previous conversations about the work on our PVR number 10, which is the proposed water shutdown. Just to confirm with council, we talked about, originally we thought that it maybe was going to be in October, and we had some subsequent conversations about waiting until March of 2017. This is the shutdown that's going to affect almost every resident in Summerland for up to 3 days of water. We've been talking to some of our larger water users, and at this point in time, Works and Utilities has identified potentially March 3rd to March 6th as the best date for this shutdown, as they're originally looking at March 10th, but there's a minor hockey tournament with 15 teams coming that particular weekend, so it would not be a good weekend. And then March 18th to April 2nd is a spring break. So we're looking at March 3rd. We're starting some more consultation just to make sure that we've done a review of what's going on, and no time's going to be a great time, but so far that's looking like a good time. And of course that's mandatory maintenance work of the water system that's going to require the water shut down. And almost everyone's expected to be affected. There may be some pockets that are not. The project, we've looked at different opportunities to mitigate, and there is no way to work around it. And the purpose of this work, this maintenance work, is to actually avoid a catastrophic failure. So water users can also expect to experience water quality notifications before and after. So even when they do have water, before those 3 days or after, there could be some boil water advisories as the cross connections, et cetera, are done. So upcoming over the next couple of months, we're expecting to do extensive community consultation, setting up some open houses. The communities have had to go through this loss in the past. There's tips and opportunities, and as I said, we've already been sitting down with some of the larger water users to determine what they may be able to do to not be affected so much. So that's March 2017.
March 3rd is Friday?
Friday, 7 p.m. Friday to 7 a.m. Monday is what we expect. Works and Utilities is working, this is a high priority because it is a complex project. There's a lot of pieces involved in it to make it go smoothly, so Chris and his crew have been working on it quite extensively already. And that's all for my report tonight.
Thank you. So, do we have any unfinished business?
No, Mr. Mayor.
That's good. On to correspondence. Our information items. Is there anything in the correspondence list that council would like to bring to our attention specifically? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to have that recommendation or resolution come forward as written, please. on receiving? Counselor Holmes? Counselor Trainer? I keep hesitating. Counselor, you're too far away, that's the problem. That's not gonna help, I can't see it. Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you, it's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to section 11, development services reports and the Summerland Community Cultural Plan. Theo?
So we'll start it out. Director of Development Services will say a few words. Of course, it was presented to council at the last committee of the whole meeting. There's been just fine tuning to it since that time. So from a staff perspective, Mr. McIntosh will speak to it. As a CAO, I'll speak to it briefly. And then if council has any questions, I do believe there's a fairly large contingent of the Cultural Task Force in the audience, and I do see the chair tucked in there. So if there's any further questions, you could speak to the task force members as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, I have to say what a pleasure it has been working with this Cultural Plan Task Force for over a year of incredibly dedicated and diligent and creative, hardworking people to come up with this final document is before you tonight. It's been quite an endeavor. They undertook a huge amount of public process. During the development of the plan, there were 5 cultural values that were identified very clearly from the public engagement that was undertaken. And from that came 5 strategic directions to take us forward as to raise the profile of culture in Summerland. The values that were clearly articulated started with the arts, community character, quality of life in Summerland, our history and our heritage, as well as agriculture. And I don't imagine that those are a surprise to anybody that lives in Summerland. The strategic directions that were identified by the task force based on those values, in no particular order, are reflect Summerland's cultural values in municipal decisions and projects, establish an administrative framework to support the arts, heritage, and culture, enhance public spaces and cultural places within the district, build on community strengths and assets, and to connect the community. And underneath each one of those strategic directions are a list of actions under a heading called Let's Act. And just an example of those, one for each of the 5, is incorporate public art into municipal projects. Under the first one, hire a community coordinator, establish an arts and cultural center, build capacity in our volunteers, and develop clear, cohesive, creative community signage and maps. So those are just an example. There's a half a dozen action items under each of the strategic directions, and I've just extracted one as an example from each. And the report is attached to the staff report. Council has had an opportunity to engage with the task force in detail. So with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. CEO?
Subsequent to the last committee of the whole meeting, I've met with, well, before that, I met with the Cultural Task Force on a number of occasions, individual members, and then the entire committee on a number of issues. I had some concerns on some of the statements that were made originally and expressed them to council and to the task force members, and I was really pleased that as a council committee task force that the input that staff provided was very much regarded, recognizing that that it was important that staff also felt that it could be implemented. One of the things I need to point out to council is that at the beginning of last year, we talked about the various plans that we had and how many action items we had outstanding. And I feel really comfortable that this particular plan is reasonable and doable and will add to the other work that we have to do when council is looking at enhancing this community. We can look at the economic development aspects, the cultural aspects, the financial aspects, climate action aspects, and that they're reasonable and they will only enhance the committee. So from a staff perspective, I'm highly supportive of the initiatives that they've identified. It's certainly a broad range of, it's a wide look at culture, and it just enhances our official community plan, so.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor, any questions of our CAO or the planner? Councillor Carlson?
I'm not sure if it's quite a question. When you think about the Marginal Arts Festival and the success that they had, you realize that the district doesn't necessarily need to be in charge of culture, and I think that we need to recognize that when looking at this plan, and when people come to our community or someone within the community wants to contribute, put on a festival, have some sort of event. I think it's really important to recognize that as a district, we should be supporting those things through the use of the venues, through perhaps giving advice or input, but I want to make sure that people don't think that the district is now going to be in charge of culture, because I don't think that that will work very well.
May I speak to that?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson, because that was actually the gist of where I was planning to go, and then I went in a different direction. I think that's exactly, and using the Marginal Arts Festival as an example, that in the same way that one of the most important things is that it's instilled, that council instills that culture into, that organizational culture into our staff, so that in every decision that we make, it's part of it. The other things will happen. We're not putting up obstacles, and we're supporting in the ways that we can, but we can't do it. And if we had to do it on our, as a municipal driven initiative, it would be very difficult. So thank you.
Anybody else? I think I'll just add one thing. It's not quite as tightly bound as the Marginal Arts Festival, but I had reason to participate and be part of the Squahaw Kennel Club big do this past weekend over 3 days. And it was interesting because when discussing things with those folks, because their event was there, a lot of people were taking advantage of what was going on in Summerland. They were organizing wine tours, or a number of them were going to go on the KVR, et cetera, et cetera. So even festivals like the Riga Festival as well, folks are coming to town for these sorts of events. We want to encourage that. And at the same time, we want to encourage things so there's a synergy in the community where we can, each aspects or various aspects of the community can be involved in some way, so that we get a lot of these people enjoying other aspects of the community. And I think that'll happen with just about any event, but in this particular instance, we're looking at the strong cultural impact that some events have.
One more statement.
Yeah.
I don't think Mr. McIntosh mentioned it. Staff has recommended 2 separate recommendations.
Yes.
It's our practice in the municipality to list our active plans in the official community plan, and upon reviewing that list, when we talked about incorporating this one, we realized that a number of them are outdated. So that's why the second recommendation is to review section 27.2.1 of the OCP to come back with what that list should say, including the new cultural plan.
So do you want 2 separate?
Well, they can be
recommendations?
together, but
Okay.
that's why it doesn't just say add that to the list, because the list is outdated. So it's better to come forward, once this is adopted, to come forward with the actual up-to-date list.
So no more questions?
Yeah, I just
Councillor
have one
Booth?
question. So my understanding is that the cultural plan that we're looking at adopting tonight has been printed and bound.
It's,
No.
Anyone?
I can answer that if you like. It's gone to the printers, I believe, as of this morning, and it will be printed and bound in proper format. The text will be the same as what you see in the staff report. We just hadn't got the design all sorted out until, I believe, today. So it will be available by the end of the month.
Okay,
in
and
bound
that,
form.
so that leads me to the next question. If people want to have a look at it or pick up a copy, or how's that happening?
We will, assuming it gets adopted and
Yes.
becomes policy, it will be on our district website,
Website.
so it can be viewed there. We will have a number of printed copies that will be available, and I imagine we can get more if we need them, or it can be printed out, I believe, as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
I can add something to that. So the idea, our target was to have it printed by the 1st of October, which is Cultural Days across Canada. And there will be a open house at the Arts and Cultural Center, and that's where we want to do the kind of the public launch of the plan as well. That was the kind of target date. And that's why we kind of brought it here today, so it could come to council before then.
Thank you. So, Council, do you have any questions of any of the task force members while they're sitting? We don't want to get them off the hook at all necessarily. If you've got any questions, they're right there.
Once a plan is adopted, it is council's plan, and we need to then start monitoring on a regular basis as far as the objectives in it.
Councillor Carlson?
I do have one more question. So, Cultural Plan Task Force task completed. What's the process to create or redefine that group?
So, may I answer? So I'll be working with Kaylee as far as the recommendation that's in the cultural plan, and it'll come forward to a council meeting in October as far as recommendations for that particular, the terms of reference for that committee, and hopefully it's important that we keep it going, so trying to get that struck as soon as possible. But we'll work, Kaylee and I have already been talking about a number of ideas for that particular committee and making sure that we pay specific attention to the terms of reference.
So I guess, as was stated a little earlier, I think when we were going through some of the slides, then this particular plan then becomes information that will cross a lot of our projects and things that we do will be referred to, in essence.
Absolutely.
Right,
I think one thing we've talked about, Council, a little bit is on our staff reports being a little bit more clear, not just with how it affects the cultural plan, but how any decision that Council is making is affecting any of our strategies and our priorities. So we're going to be working on that a little bit to incorporate that into our staff reports so that it's, like I say, whether or not it's sustainability, financial implications, cultural.
Councillor Holmes, would you like to bring the resolution forward?
I would. I also prepared a few written remarks. I wouldn't mind reading. It's only 3.5 minutes. I timed myself.
Can we?
It's not a question.
How about
but-
we do the resolution? And bring that
Sure,
forward,
absolutely, whichever order you want.
In case I need to cut you off.
Okay, I move that council adopt the Community Cultural Plan dated August 19th, 2016, as submitted by the Cultural Plan Task Force, and that staff be directed to review section 27.2.1 secondary plans of the OCP and recommend updates that include all current adopted plans.
Thank you. The seconder, please. Councillor Carlson, thank you very much. Okay, any
You ready?
discussion?
Yeah,
You're ready.
I'd like to discuss something. I just want to read this. It's kind of high level, so, but.
Do I need to stay?
You'll understand.
It may be above
You'll
my head.
understand. Okay. So I want to say cultural development is a relatively new area of focus for many Canadian municipalities, including here in Summerland. One reason for the increased interest in culture is a basic shift in the assumptions of what drives local economies. The traditional economic growth model is for a municipality to try to attract a large-scale business investment like a factory or something like that, usually by offering tax incentives. The thinking here is that the investment will then create jobs and bring in new residences. However, in today's globalized, knowledge-based economy, that approach no longer really works. It just produces a race to the bottom. So instead, the emphasis today is on quality of place. People will come to live and work in a community if it has a full range of amenities and cultural assets. That, in turn, attracts investment. This, I believe, is an important distinction. People no longer follow business investment, but rather business investment follows people. The correlation between culture and economic development is well documented. Companies look at a community's arts and cultural offerings when deciding where to locate. A vibrant art scene, a bustling downtown, respect for local heritage, quality of life, town character, all these serve to make a community more attractive to young families, skilled knowledge workers, and all kinds of creative and entrepreneurial people. People who are engaged in local culture make a community thrive. They are the ones who volunteer their time. They're the ones who are physically active, who shop locally and start their own businesses. We need more people like that in Summerland, and to get them, we need to support our local culture. Cultural planning is especially beneficial to communities with rich cultural resources that maybe haven't been fully leveraged. Summerland is such a community. We have an unbelievable inventory of cultural assets and a long tradition of creativity. So this document, which is Summerland's first official community cultural plan, is not about creating new things from scratch, as we've discussed. It's about building on our existing strengths, taking our heritage and arts, our orchards and wineries, our natural environment, our downtown and lakefront, our hardworking volunteers, and our public-spirited residents, taking all these assets and coordinating them and building upon them to make the whole community stronger and better and more vibrant. Normally, as mentioned, when a municipality creates a plan like this, a contract would be awarded to an external consultant who would run the planning process and seek public input and produce a report for council to consider. With the cultural plan, we decided to try something different. We appointed a task force of volunteers to do the work. Every one of us is from Summerland. We're all members of the community. And although we sought and received advice from external experts, we're not professional consultants. So the plan may not have the slick consultant look and feel, though it will look better once it's designed. But what the task force has produced after many long, hard hours is something that's genuine, a made in Summerland plan. In our terms of reference, we were asked to develop a plan that understood the values and perspectives of the community. So we went out and asked people what they valued about Summerland. It was a long year consultation process, through which we received more than 2,300 comments. And this cultural plan is a representation of that public input. It reflects the expressed views and wishes of the people of the community. And with that, I support the adoption of the plan.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Here, we had a second. Yes. Okay, no further discussion. All in favor of receiving the plan? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. And this time I'd also like to thank all those that participated in our task force. Appreciate all the long hours you put in, and I see most of you are still smiling, which is pretty good. So thank you very much. Council appreciates all the work you put into this. And as you can see from the comments, not only what Councillor Holmes made, but others, that this will affect what we do in Summerland with respect to our processes and policies as we go forward. So thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you. So we'll move on to 11.2. Development variance permits of 1083-834 Dunham Crescent. Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a development variance permit to reduce the front yard setback of the property at 10834 Dunham Crescent from 7 meters to 3 meters.
4 meters.
4 meters. 7 meters to 4 meters, sorry, a 3 meter reduction. Thank you for that. The subject site is actually rather large at 1,897 square meters, but is an extremely difficult lot, which is why it's remained vacant for quite some time. And you can see on the contours there's a significant slope in this area. Those are 1 meter contours, so there's a significant drop towards the rear of the property. And there is a very large gas line right-of-way and a storm drainage right-of-way through the center of the property, which also inhibits the ability or constrains the ability to put a building on there. The proposed house is as shown in that location. It is a reduction of 3 meters, moving the front setback from 7 meters to 4 meters. And it's noted that the adjacent property to the south received a Board of Variance relaxation in the past down to 4.25 meters. Again, you can see the topographic issue there. So in this particular case, it doesn't appear to be an unwarranted or unreasonable relaxation, given the constraints on the property. That is the house that is going to be built on there. It will provide an infill house on a lot in Summerland, and the application is recommending support.
Thank you. Questions of Mr. McIntosh, Council? Anything at all? Councillor Holmes?
Any response from the neighbors?
We haven't had any since it's been advertised that I'm aware of.
Anything else? So we'll move ahead. Would someone like to bring that resolution forward, please? Councillor Boot.
That the development variance permit application for Lot 2, DL 439 ODYD, Plan 34-235, located at 10834 Dunham Crescent, to vary Section 10.4.6, bracket A, bracket I, to reduce the required front yard setback from 7.0 meters to 4.0 meters, be approved.
Seconder, please. Councillor Traynor, thank you. Okay, any further discussion on this? Guess not. All in favor? Thank you. None opposed. The motion's carried. Very much. Okay, we're moving on to 12.1. Disposal of municipal road right-of-way at 12406 Blagmore. Hale?
We'll have Mr. Deniger speak to this report. This is regarding the sale of the property, not the rezoning of the property at this time.
Sorry, just loading my report here. So this is regarding some road right-of-way. As directed by council previously in a meeting, staff were asked to explore any opportunities for disposal of this unused road right-of-way. There is a drawing attached on the last page of the report. And hopefully, is Ian able to get a map up?
I'm working at it.
Okay. So if trying to get a map, but it's keep going. Okay. It's for an area of 131 square meters. There was an appraisal done by the interested party using a preliminary drawing of a slightly larger area, but using the per area value found in that appraisal at $8.43 per square feet. Both staff of the district and the interested party did the calculations and saw that the area they're interested in, 131 meters, is worth $11,887. Because the property, the unused road right-of-way, is of no real development potential for any of the neighbors, it makes sense to do a direct disposal. A public disposal wouldn't make sense. So staff are recommending moving forward with this disposal.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Deniger? Do you have anything to add, Mr. Planner?
No, we have a subdivision application. The remaining road right-of-way satisfies all the rules. It will allow an infill lot, and we support that
Okay, thank you.
option.
Councillor Carlson?
Do you have any idea how many other pieces of property may have a situation like this adjacent to them? Is it significant?
I would say it's not significant. There's probably one or two here and there. It's not extremely rare, but it's not common either. There's a few.
We have an inventory somewhere identifying, do we not? that-
We have a land inventory identifying all municipally owned lands. It doesn't really speak to where we have wider road right-of-ways and we can adjust, but there are a few of those around.
Typically, they just remain as they are until a property owner identifies it, and then it goes through the process of determining if it's needed or required, future or present.
And my apologies for being distracted by a lack of map. The particular instance here is that the extra road right-of-way allows them to subdivide because their property width isn't wide enough right now to do that subdivision, and they want to be in conformance. So they want to have the proper 30 meters. And even if they got a development variance permit to do a subdivision to a smaller lot, there'd still be issues with setback. So they saw this extra road and thought it'd be a good idea to remain in conformance.
So someone's asking permission instead of forgiveness. That's great. Okay.
On that note.
Okay, on that note, would someone like to bring this resolution forward?
I will bring resolution
written.
12.1 as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Counselor Trainer. Notice I was right on it that time. Okay. All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. None opposed. Thank you very much. Okay. Country Queen, CAO.
So Fintry Queen, Mr. Deniger has a report. We're here to answer questions. Of course, council had a presentation by Fintry Queen proprietor this morning at the Committee of the Whole meeting. This is a follow-up to that meeting, just with some background information from staff.
Okay.
So this was a little late coming to council because we weren't quite sure what exactly Andy Schwab was going to say in the meeting. Along with the agenda package for the Committee of the Whole, he did have a letter requesting that council support in principle 2 points there, which are in the report, just to consider a landing site for the Fintry Queen and to consider a temporary use permit in Summerland. Staff do have some concerns on financial, legal, and political, historical matters surrounding the Fintry Queen, and to ensure that staff are remaining focused on council's priorities, we want to suggest that perhaps the Okanagan Lake Boat Company work with the Chamber. They have been so far, and we encourage them to continue working with the Chamber of Commerce and other interested parties such as the KVR and so forth, to develop a comprehensive, fulsome business plan prior to staff putting any more time into discussions with them. We want to make sure that the plan is solid. And that is what is recommended in the motion there.
Right. So just to emphasize that, I think that's that we're recommending that there's support in general, that the concept is a good concept, but that the amount of information that we've received so far, especially on the financial side of things, require a great deal more work on their part, and that if they work with the various groups that towards a business plan, then council would be better able to assess it. But that the concept of listening to him, it was quite exciting from a staff perspective today.
Thank you. Is that all, Mr. Deniger?
Yep, staff have had one prior to their presentation today. Staff did have a discussion with them, rather in-depth one.
Okay.
And they've been very cooperative in our requests to continue working with us in the community.
Good, good.
I think, too, we need to make sure that we better understand the relationship with Penticton. He talked a lot about his dealings with Penticton today, and we haven't had any discussions with Penticton to understand those discussions and that, but we can certainly follow that up as well.
Yeah. Any questions of Mr. Deniger or anybody for the report? Okay, I just want to add something further to what our CIO just said, that yes, this actually sounded pretty exciting this morning, but there are some reservations about some aspects that we need more comprehensive information. But from my standpoint, looking at the history of barges and boats in the South Okanagan and our railway history and where we're moving now with Thompson Okanagan Tourist Association and our own chamber with respect to cycling tourism and the movement of people around the south end of the lake, I think this is, if it's possible, we're all quite interested, because we're looking at potential docking in Penticton, Naramata, and I guess at Crescent Beach as well. Mr. Planner, what were the other locations? Do you remember?
It was the rock groin adjacent to the Community Heritage Pier.
Right.
Was their preferred location?
but there are several, there's gonna be a number of locations through the circuit.
Oh,
that,
yeah, Naramata and Penticton, yes.
yeah. So it offers a real potential for moving people around, particularly cyclists and walk-ons, but in addition to that, there was a pretty interesting approach in terms of the opportunities for sort of a floating restaurant type of idea with potential for business meetings, et cetera. I think the dining room will hold 265 people to that extent, so it offers some very interesting opportunities, I think, and I'm kind of hoping that the information we receive will allow us to move forward with it. So would someone like to bring that resolution forward, please?
Since it's a late item, you should probably read it out.
Oh, okay, yeah. Someone like to read that out, please?
Yeah, I can bring it forward.
Councillor Traynor?
That council pass the following resolutions, that the Okanagan Lake Boat Company Incorporated be advised that council is interested in the proposal to the District of Summerland as presented at the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 12, 2016, and that a comprehensive business plan be presented to the district by the company prior to further consideration by staff.
Thank you. You have a seconder, please? Councillor Holmes, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Councillor Traynor?
I agree with the staff recommendation, and I appreciated that Mr. Schwab, is that how you say his name?
Andy Schwab, yeah.
That he came this morning and gave us an hour presentation. He answered all of our questions that we had. I still have more questions about his business plan and kind of where he wants to take this, and I see some potential, but I do think it needs to be tweaked a bit. And I'd also like to hear from, like you mentioned, Naramata and Penticton, because I think if we are going to do something like this, it needs to involve all of the communities working together to make it successful for him and also for the people that live here and potentially want to use this. I think it could be a really good opportunity for cycling, tourism as well. Whether there'd be enough cyclists year-round to run this, I'm not sure, but hopefully he'll come back with more details eventually.
Cross-country skiers. Councillor Booth?
I just have one question, and maybe this can be directed to our Director of Development Services. A bit later on tonight, we're going to be talking about the water zoning. This is a commercial operation. There will be, if we move forward with this, there will be accommodation for this type of commercial operator within, is it Water Zone 2?
It certainly could be.
Yeah,
And if
in the
need be-
commercial one.
Yes, and there
Yes.
could also be some adjustment if council wanted some site-specific component to it as well. So
Okay.
that's certainly an option.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carlson?
I still have very strong reservation about the Fintry Queen and the proposal that was brought forward this morning. I think that the idea of it is wonderful, but I do think that given the history of this, maybe it's an idea that needs to be recreated and done by someone else, because I don't think that, I remain extremely skeptical, and I don't think it's worth spending much more time until it can be proven somewhere. And Summerland's the last community in the entire Okanagan along the lake that's been approached for this, because there's been so many issues marring this thing for years and years. So I think we should let it rest until it becomes a success, and then jump on board.
I think that's, Councillor Carlson, that's why the resolution reads as it does, that we have, has to go and he has to present more information to us. But I think it's interesting to note too that if I understand correctly from this morning, that considerable amount of work's being done by Penticton, and they're prepared to move ahead with some of the agreements that they've moved forward on. So things look relatively positive. In addition to that, the previous owner put in $800,000 of retro refitting. There's a lot of new equipment. Everything's being updated. So it's really almost entirely new in terms of the guts of the boat. So that's interesting as well. So we've had a mover and seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. One opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, Peach Orchard Campsite.
We'll have Mr. Denniger speak to that one.
Yeah. 12.3, Mr. Denniger.
So this is regarding a request for proposal for an operator for Peach Orchard campsite. This is coming forward to council because of a section within the purchasing authority policy. The awarding of any request for proposal worth over $100,000 can only be approved by council. Staff did go through a comprehensive process with a pre-existing matrix to evaluate the proponents. And the existing operator, Jane Jackson, operating as Sunny Days Enterprises, did beat out the other ones. And so staff are recommending that this RFP be awarded to Jane Jackson.
Thank you. Anything to add, yeah? Okay, any questions at all? So how was this summer, you did well this summer?
Another successful summer, yes.
Good, okay.
A lot of happy campers.
How did I know that had to come somewhere? At least it wasn't me saying that, and then I have to have some groans from nearby. Okay, would someone like to bring that motion forward, please? Councillor Booth.
That RFP 2016-01 Management and Operation of Peach Orchard Campground be awarded to C. Jane Jackson, Sunny Days Enterprises, for the term October 15th, 2016 to October 15th, 2019, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the district.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you very much. Any further discussion at all? Seems to be moving along okay. All in favor? Thank you. The motion is carried. None opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to 12.4, CAO.
So we're going to turn this over to the Director of Works and Utilities for just a verbal update tonight. There were some questions on Garnet Valley that were outstanding. Of course, at the next council meeting, we'll get back to our written regular updates, but there is some information for Mr. Johnson to provide tonight.
Mr. Johnson, thank you.
Yeah, as we work through completing our system separation design and looking at an interconnection strategy for this, there was a question that was raised with regards to the availability of water in the Garnet Valley system. With that interconnect, it's expanded to both the Summerland and the Garnet Valley system. So, as noted, we're looking to bring back a complete report regarding water availability to the October 11th council to answer questions with regards to availability, capacity, demand, how we evaluate requests for additional increases in arable area and demand to the water system. So the presentation tonight, I just have a few diagrams that I'll bring up. I just want to explain and discuss the interconnection strategy that is included as part of the water separation project, just to help understand that it's not an all or none scenario.
And before Mr. Johnson starts with his brief presentation, just a note that it's scheduled for the October 11th, whatever that date that is. We will be meeting with the Water Committee prior to that meeting to discuss it with them.
Can I ask one quick question based on what you said so far? When you're talking about interconnection, are you talking interconnection for domestic from our water treatment plant? Or are you talking interconnection, well, that too, but for agricultural water?
Yeah, so it's the ability to take treated water from the Summerland system and to supplement it into the Garnet Valley irrigation system. So with the system separation project, it's going to take Garnet Valley water and feed it into Jones Flat, and the interconnection will allow that Jones Flat area to be reverted back to as it is today, being fed from Summerland treated water, in order to reduce the demand on the Garnet Valley system at the time of year when it makes sense. So if I'll go through the presentation first,
Sure.
and then
Okay,
I
thank
hope
you.
that'll answer your question. So shown on the map here in blue is the area that will receive treated domestic water from the Summerland system as part of this project. The green area is the Jones Flat area that will receive Garnet Valley irrigation water from the Garnet Valley Dam in that system. So intuitively, it may not make sense. It's a bit of a challenge to understand that initially it doesn't make sense that if we have water availability concerns in Garnet Valley on the reservoir, why would we be adding or feeding additional areas? But during certain times of the year, especially April, May, and into June, we have additional water that we're releasing down Eneas Creek from the Garnet Valley Dam that could be utilized to as irrigation in some additional areas. So that's the basis of the separation project, is to capitalize on that, on the irrigation side to feed those additional areas. The reason that extra water is let go is to keep the Garnet Valley Dam at the recommended high water level during spring freshet. As the water comes in, we need to keep that at a certain level, so that excess water has to be released down the creek. If we have the ability to feed it into the irrigation system, then we have the ability to irrigate more lands. So with that, as part of the project, there's a pump station, isolation valve, and an interconnection that would be included on this system. So during that time in the spring, when we have the excess water, the isolation valve is opened up, the interconnection is turned off, and that excess water is used to feed the Jones Flat area. When we get into June or into July, when that excess water isn't available, then we have the ability to turn on the interconnection and to close the isolation valve to then basically revert back to how it is today. So that only the areas in blue would be fed from the Garnet Valley for irrigation, and the area in green would be then fed from the Summerland system for irrigation purposes. So then as the year goes on, we get closer to where irrigation turnoff would occur. We could then open that isolation valve, close the interconnection, and allow the irrigation system in Jones Flat to then be charged for the winter months from Garnet Valley, leading into the next spring when there's the excess water that would then be utilized to feed that additional area. Another benefit of this is the ability to feed additional areas in Garnet Valley from the Summerland system in times where there's concerns, or in dry years where Garnet Valley may not feed the existing area or be able to feed the existing area that it does. So again, with just by turning on that interconnection and opening the isolation valve that's shown on here, but closing one that's further up the line, whether it be at the pump station or at the pressure zone change, we would have the ability to feed additional properties up Garnet Valley from the treated Summerland water to reduce the impact on the Garnet Valley Dam. So due to constraints, initially we talked about having the interconnection at the pump station and be able to pump water into the system and feed possibly more areas up Garnet Valley. However, there is a pressure zone change along Garnet Valley, and we would be limited by the capacity of the domestic system and the pumps if we were to try to pull water up Garnet Valley and feed it into the system, versus utilizing the existing pressure of the Summerland system down in the Jones Flat area to just naturally feed it by gravity up to the pressure zone change potentially that's shown on here. As you move up the valley with that, there would be less pressure that would be available as you got up to that zone change. So operationally, it may not make sense to feed all the way up there. So there would be inline valves that would allow us to determine where that area that would be fed would be cut off at. So I guess that's where initially there were some thoughts that it was sort of an all or none scenario with bringing Jones Flat onto the Garnet system, but there's a lot of operational flexibility that is available with an interconnection and some isolation valves in line. So if there's any questions.
So that's the overview. That is the overview to answer some of the specific questions that came up. I think you'll find at the October 11th meeting, it'll be much more comprehensive than that, and a little bit more information, even to do with the legality and the process that we would be going through when we have applications for new acreage, et cetera. So that will come then.
Yeah, I have a question, if I might, and then Councillor Booth. I appreciate what you're saying about being able to feed up Garnet Valley, and that's very important as far as I see. Because my concern revolves around a drought scenario. Right now, if we had a 1 in 25 year drought scenario, the Garnet Valley system would likely only be able to serve about 337 or 340 acres. And so we would have to be able to, if there's water in the system in totality, we'd have to be able to move water up to take care of the acreage that Garnet Valley could not. And I assume that's exactly what you're doing here, but I don't know how many acres that entails from in the blue zone going back up to your pressure zone change, which is the last area, I guess, where you can feed to.
Right. Yeah, and so I guess keeping in mind too that once other upgrades or improvements to the Garnet Valley Dam are completed by the spillway improvements that would be
Yeah.
required to be able to hold that water at a higher level, there would be more water that would be able to be stored in those years where you would have that excess water in the spring that would now you'd be able to store and it would last you longer through a drought scenario. So there are future improvements that should be kept in mind when looking at this, and that although there's the ability to feed some Summerland water up to the Garnet Valley area, that is still treated water, and that if you can, every cubic meter you can use from the Garnet system, it saves operationally as well, right?
Yeah,
So,
of course.
but it does offer some of that flexibility in those tough years that there is some water that can flow the other way.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll wait, more details in October. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Oh, sorry.
I just
Councillor
have one, silly question probably. So when you're turning on and off isolation valves in the interconnector, is that done manually or electronically?
Yeah, it would be done manually.
Manually?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just part of your regular monitoring of levels in the dam and everything?
Yeah, so with this, the plan would be that, into June, we would start monitoring the level of the water, and if there is an excess water to spill, then that's when we would make the decision to, it's as simple as turning a valve.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just manually close one valve and open the other, and away we go.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. To receive that, or just as is?
You could receive.
Okay, motion to receive the report from Public Works. Councillor Boot. Councillor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? Okay. Carried. Okay, we're moving on to bylaws, 14.1. CO.
14.1 is simply a bylaw here for consideration for adoption.
Okay. Nothing more to be done? Okay, we have a motion to move forward with that resolution, please. Councillor Holmes.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment, childcare center bylaw number 2016-031 be adopted.
Okay, seconder, please. Councillor Carlson, thank you. Any further? No, we're done. This is an adoption, so all in favor? Thank you. None opposed. Motion's carried. Okay, moving 14.2. CO.
So tonight, the second one here, 12223 Saunders Crescent was one of the two public hearings that we had this morning. So, earlier tonight. So council has, you may, if you desire, consider third and final reading tonight, or you could delay with no further input after tonight. If you have questions of Director of Development Services, they can be answered, or you can move forward to consider the third reading.
Thank you. What's your wish?
And adoption.
Adoption?
It does not need to go to Minister of Transportation, so if you so desire, it could be adopted tonight.
Okay. Anything to add, Mr. McIntosh?
No, other than it would be nice if it could be adopted tonight.
Of course. What else would I expect? Okay, would someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Carlson?
I will move that zoning bylaw amendment 12223 Saunders Crescent bylaw 2016-032 be read a third time. Should I do it in two?
You can keep going.
And that bylaw 2016-032 be adopted.
Okay. Seconder, please.
Second.
Councillor Trainer, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Councillor Holmes.
No, just a comment. I think this is exactly the sort of thing we need to encourage. This is good infill. It's what the OCP says, and I really like the innovative approach that they've taken to put a house on what could be a complicated lot. So.
Yeah. Councillor Trainer.
I thought it was also nice that the neighbor came to support. I think it's good when neighbors can work through things and get their questions answered as well. So that was good to see.
It happens that it's the second such lot within a fairly short area as well, so a similar one occurred just around the corner from it on Ward and Saunders. So, you know, the opportunity for this, of course, comes from the fact that Summerland was developed on septic. The lots are fairly large because of that, and when we move to sewer, it allows for considerable opportunity for infill because these lots are large, and there's no problem hooking up to sewer if everything else can be met. So, got a seconder, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. None opposed? Okay.
14.3?
14.3, yes.
So
sorry.
14.3 is also one that public hearing from this evening. I think before we start, that perhaps Director of Development Services can just answer the questions that were actually raised at during the public hearing, just for clarification.
Yes, we do have, Mr. Mayor, only two designations in the community plan for industrial areas. There's the light industrial and medium industrial. And within those designations in the OCP, there are a number of zoning designations that go along with that. And generally, the heavy industrial goes into the medium designation, and light industrial goes into the light industrial designation. And M2, which is our heavy industrial designation, is in the entirety of the James Lake Industrial Park, has that zoning. Heavy industrial, which isn't heavy in terms of factories and that sort of thing, but has a couple of things like auto body shops, which are not allowed in M1, they're allowed in M2, and very minor other adjustments. So it's not the traditional heavy industrial zoning that one would think of. There's just a couple of minor adjustments, and that is the industrial park where those minor heavy items go. So that is the intent there.
And I don't believe it's stated in the report that's in this week's agenda, but for first and second reading, I believe it was stated that it was to match the zoning that's on the piece of the property. A condition of sale for the property is that they will amalgamate the two parcels, and therefore we were looking to match the zoning, so it's one parcel with the same zoning. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, questions? Councillor Carlson.
So the question was raised as to, it was 2006 that
He
that
met 2016, I think.
August 22nd, 2006 is what the gentleman had said, that the James Lake industrial area, the district was hoping to move towards light industrial. Is that something that, you know, has ever been explored that you can recall, or something that should be discussed in a later meeting?
I think it would be worth discussing at a later meeting. I know generally there is a call to be more commercial and less industrial out there simply because of the rents that are charged. And we tend to resist that a little bit because you need to have industrial land where industrial work can go, and to try and keep the more commercial areas into the commercial areas. But it's certainly something that could be explored if council wants us to.
I think just to, some more information, perhaps the planner could correct me if I'm mistaken, but one of the rationales for putting sewer in that area was to allow for different sorts of industrial uses that otherwise may not be able to be there if it wasn't for the sewer. And I think of a couple of ones where I think there was a yogurt outfit that wanted to be in there, and they required sewer.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Plus, it does allow for more intensive industrial uses because you don't have to provide area for septic systems as well.
Okay, would someone like to bring this motion forward as presented? Councillor Traynor?
I'll bring it forward as presented.
Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you, the motion is carried and none are opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, moving to 14.4. Water bylaw.
Now, we will turn this one over to Director of Development Services. This is, of course, coming forward after we held our public open house, a couple of weeks ago now, and got the data from that, and Ian will speak to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council has seen this a couple of times, originally late in 2014, with some docks that were being constructed in Summerland. The issue of the head lease that had lapsed and the regulations in the zoning bylaw became evident. Committee of the Whole on May 9th, Council directed staff to proceed with some zoning regulations that would cover the foreshore out to the municipal boundary, which is 600 feet offshore, 182 meters, which is shown by the pink line on the map. So staff prepared those draft zoning regulations after doing a significant amount of research, and they were presented to Council July 12th. And then Council directed staff to hold a public open house, which was done August the 16th in Council chambers, held between 5 and 8 p.m. with a presentation at 7 p.m. 21 people attended that open house, and we received 10 written submissions. Of the 10, 6 were in support of the regulations, particularly in support of the mooring buoys, which are not currently in our zoning bylaw. One response was completely opposed, noting further dock control is unnecessary given the province is regulating it, and 3 responses didn't say one way or the other. And those are included in the report, so council can read those. There did appear to be a consensus with respect to the need to regulate moorage buoys. And what we're suggesting based on that is essentially what we came forward with the first time, and that is basically that there should be 3 water zones is what we're suggesting. The first water zone would be from the foreshore out approximately 100 meters, and that allows for residential recreational water use, allows docks and moorage buoys, 1 buoy per 10 meters of frontage along the lake to a maximum of 3. And then the second water zone, which goes from the 100-meter mark out to the boundary, does not allow for any mooring buoys or docks. And the thought there is, instead of just having 1 water zone, is the current regulations, both provincially and locally, suggest you can have 40-meter long dock. There are some applications that come in because of the shallow water to vary that 40 meters to a longer length. The limit put on that with this particular option is you can only vary the bylaw out to the 100-meter mark. After that, you can't vary anymore. You have to actually rezone and change a portion of the WZ2 to WZ1 if you wanted to have a dock that was longer than 100 meters. And that just means a bit more public process if that were ever to be considered. There are a number of new definitions that are being added. What is a dock? What is a buoy? What is moorage, which is hooking to a buoy? What is wharfage, which is hooking to a dock? And what is a watercraft? The third water zone that we're proposing there is a more commercial water zone, and that's adjacent to the commercial areas in Lower Town as well as our public beaches, and that allows for the docks and more expanded commercial use such as boat rentals, marinas, fuel sales, etc. So the first water zone would be the recreational water use zone 1, and that is adjacent to residential areas from the municipal boundary all the way down to the rotary boat launch out to the 100-meter mark, and that allows the docks and the moorage buoys. The recreational use 2 zone goes from the 100-meter mark out to the pink boundary, and you're not allowed to have any docks or buoys in that location. And then the recreational water use zone 3, which is the intensive water use, which is a more commercial nature, is adjacent to the, again, runs from the Peach Orchard boat launch past the waterfront resort. And then the public beaches, there's Powell Beach down there, the Sosa Sailing Club, and Sunoka Beach. And as we move through, you can see the water zone 1 adjacent to the foreshore, water zone 2 further out. In this particular case, that's the Crescent Beach, a small area there that allows for some boat rentals. Then when we get down to the boat launch, from the boat launch down to the end of the resort is the commercial area, which, as noted before, would take in the Heritage Pier if that was an issue. And then when we get down to the South Okanagan Sailing Association, there's a small commercial area in there to allow for boat rentals. When we get adjacent to Highway 97, the 100-meter out zone, water zone 2, goes all the way along the highway edge, so there's no wharfs or buoys allowed in there until we get down to the residential area again to the south. Then when we get to Powell Beach, again, another commercial area there that allows for boat rentals and such. And then the same adjacent to Sunoka Beach. The actual list of what is allowed in the zones and the definitions are in the staff report there. I can go through those if council wishes. And that's basically the report.
Thank you very much. Questions of Mr. McIntosh? Councillor Booth.
I have a couple of questions. For some reason, I'm not able to open any of the links. So the questions relate to, I have two questions. What's showing up there right now is this commercial from in the Sunoka area, right?
That's correct.
Now, this is just kind of a random question. After that area and before you get into the city of Penticton, is that managed by the Crown?
Yes.
Along the lake? Okay, that answers one question. The other question I have is if somebody wanted to put up I guess a sign that was floating on the water, like on a buoy, would that only be allowed in a commercial in water zone 3?
That's a good question. I believe our sign bylaw at the moment prohibits floating signs, but I would
Okay.
have to double check that. And I think the intent was we wouldn't have floating signs in Summerland, but if we wanted them, the sign bylaw could allow them and they would be permitted within the commercial zone if that was the wish of council.
Could you check that for me?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Trainer.
Would this help us better enforce possible problem houseboats in the future?
It definitely would in terms of the number of buoys that are permitted. And again, right now, the buoys only permit what's called temporary moorage, and that's 72 hours of continuous tie-up. And then once your 72 hours is up, you have to disconnect for a 24-hour period before you can hook back up for the next 72-hour period. And the intent there is not to be difficult for homeowners adjacent to the water that want to moor their buoys or their boats, but if we have a problem situation where somebody's tied up for many months, we have the ability to enforce that.
Thanks.
Councillor Booth.
And that enforcement is catalyzed or whatever by a complaint?
Normally, it's complaint-driven, yes.
Complaint-driven, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Trainer.
This might be obvious, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Where does the province fall into this now in terms of us approving docks?
The provincial rules don't change. It's much the same as the agricultural land reserve. The province has rules that you must meet within the ALR, and then you have municipal rules you must also meet in our agriculture zones. And where possible, they're the same. It's exactly the same here. The province has rules for docks, you must meet them. You must also meet the municipal rules. And we've made ours so that they're virtually the same in most cases. The buoys are not governed by the province, they're governed by the federal government. So we would be enforcing our municipal buoys, and basically that's just in terms of number. Federal government doesn't determine how many you can have, they just say it has to be this size, has to be lighted or not, has to have this signage, et cetera, et cetera. We say you can only have 1 per 10 meters up to 3.
It gives council the opportunity to be more stringent than the province, should they desire to in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I could just, Lori here has pulled up the sign bylaw. Thank you for that, Lori. And signs, floating signs are prohibited in Okanagan Lake.
In Okanagan Lake?
Well, in our
In
jurisdiction.
our, okay. Good, that was quick. Thank you. Thank you, Lori.
We'll disconnect the odd one. Okay. Councillor Holmes.
I'll move that zoning bylaw amendment, water zoning regulations bylaw number 2016-028 be introduced and read for a first and second time, and that a public hearing be scheduled for October 11, 2016 to receive public feedback on bylaw number 2016-028.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Booth, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you, motion's carried, none is opposed. Anything else, Clerk Officer? Just move on. CEO? Good.
Nope, time to.
Okay, moving on to council reports. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. So in the last, this past weekend and the weekend before, I attended 2 inaugural events in Summerland. They were both quite incredible. First of all, the Feast of Farms last weekend was, I didn't do a head count, but man, was it good. The food was excellent, the wine was excellent, and I look forward to hearing how well it did financially and how our community garden can be further expanded because of that. It kind of went to show you of how well positioned I think Summerland could be as a leader in the whole local food movement. It was quite incredible. And the other one, of course, was the Marginal Arts Festival, which has inspired George Riga. And when we were talking about the cultural plan of how we can build on what we have, our cultural assets of what we have, those are 2 great examples right there, I think. So it's I look forward to those events growing in the future years and continuing. And I'd like to congratulate and thank all the volunteers of both events who put those two events on. I also like to congratulate Luanescence and Okanagan Crush Pad for winning the Lieutenant Governor Award for Excellence in BC Wines. On Thursday morning, I tagged along with the Lieutenant Governor for the awards presentation and was forced to drink wine at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. So she presented wines at both wineries and had an entourage of honorary consuls with her. I don't know if everybody knows what an honorary consul is. I had quite a bit of experience with honorary consuls in my time living abroad. But honorary consuls are people, usually immigrants who live in Canada, but they represent their home country in places where there isn't a consulate in that country. And so they operate on a voluntary, non-salaried basis. So they're not really professional diplomats, but they represent their country. So they had a whole busload of these honorary consuls going around to the wineries, and so I talked to somebody from Norway, somebody from Mauritius, somebody from Germany. It was so it was a great tourist promotion event, really. I mean, and everybody was very impressed with Summerland. Kept telling me how lucky I am to live here. Things like that, which I already know. And but it was quite impressive. So that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
I can attest to that. I was in Hong Kong last week for a fruit and vegetable trade show. They don't grow any fruit nor vegetable in Hong Kong. And we live in it's unbelievable. You come home and it's like, oh, we get to be here forever. This is wonderful. So I'm glad that the world's starting to recognize that. They can come visit. I also, the day before I left, I got to go to one of the events at the Marginal Arts Festival, and it was like going to a talent show with the most talented people you're ever going to see at a talent show. And so it was really enjoyable, and I hope that one in particular can continue on because it will always be different and always be inspiring.
Cool. Thank you very much. Councillor Boo.
Clearly I attended the Feast of Farms on Saturday as well. And I would just, I won't go through the list of sponsors, but Summerland is an amazing place for sponsors and volunteers and people that are just ready to lend a hand, lend you things and trust that you'll get them back, all of that. The Marginal Arts Festival was absolutely amazing. The sold-out concert at Campbell Riga on Saturday night was awesome. Tomorrow I am attending the Healthy Living Coalition meeting, and Wednesday morning, so I want to see all of you there bright and early. From 6:30 to 9, I'm volunteering at the United Way campaign, the drive-through breakfast campaign. So from 6:30 to 9, you can get a breakfast as you drive through Lakeside Resort. And there's a newspaper and Tim Hortons coffee and all kinds of goodies.
Is there scooter service?
Probably.
You can bike, walk.
You can
Rollerblade.
do whatever. They're hoping to, the United Way is hoping to raise $20,000 on this event this year. RDOS on Thursday, and then last Thursday, which is the usual first Thursday of the month for the chamber meeting, that board meeting was canceled, but it'll resume again in October.
Councillor Trainer.
I attended on August 23rd the Summerland Healthy Communities Initiative first movie night. We have a movie series going on from now until January. And so the first one was held on the 23rd, and it was about community gardens, and we showed 2 short films. We had about 50 people attend, so that was really good for our first night, and Tony Boot was one of our panelists. Our next movie night is September 20th, and it's at Center Stage, and the theme for this one will be seniors in our community, so we're showing a film called The Elder Project, and then afterwards there'll be a panel discussion where the community can contribute to that as well. I attended the Marginal Arts Festival, the Campbell Riga concert, which was really good, and I went to the last Summerland Farmers Market on Sunday. They wrapped up their season, and I thought that they did a really great job, and looking forward to having them back again next year. And the Test of Humanity race is this Sunday. It's a really popular race in Summerland, and it raises money for Canadian humanitarian efforts in Ethiopia. I can't remember what time the race starts, but I think it's an all-day event on Sunday, so I usually go out and cheer on all the riders. And speaking of which, today I was out for a bike ride around Summerland, as usual, and we got stopped at the Kettle Valley Railway. The train was going across the trestle, so we had to stop, and we're waving at everybody, and the train was full of tourists. And one person was like, "Hi, Aaron and Eric," and we couldn't tell who it was. So they continued on the train, and then we continued riding, and we were on the Trans-Canada Trail, and there's a big tour group from Monashi Tours, and there's about 20 cyclists, and they were passing us, and they had been on the train, so it was our friend who was leading the tour who had waved to us. But I thought it was really neat because obviously these people had done the train ride, and then they were going to do a bike ride around Summerland. So I thought that that's such a unique opportunity that no other community in BC can offer. So I was very proud of that.
So they didn't include a wine tour before the bike ride?
They may have.
Okay.
They were going downhill on the way back.
Okay.
So,
Good.
yeah, that's it.
One other thing, the Terry Fox Run is also this Sunday.
Ooh, okay, thank you very much. One of my heroes, for sure, our hero. Okay, any member of the public? We have an opportunity now for the public to ask questions, or not to ask questions, but to present any information or concerns they have to council. Yes.
I can just talk about something I heard tonight for a moment, possibly. Sharon Mansier here from, well, I come once in a while. I'm from 4416 Williams Avenue down in Trout Creek. I unfortunately didn't have time to prepare before coming tonight, but I appreciate that all the documents were available early enough for me to do so, should I want to, and I just want to thank you for that. The water zoning, I just want staff and council and mayor please to consider, in many communities, the eutrophication of the water, the bad smell that comes along with the greening of the water when you have too many docks and things. When you're looking at that plan, do look at communities like the Shuswap where they've had to severely limit and alter the kinds of docks that they're having. So just one thing that I'd like to just encourage you to consider. In the discussions from Chris Johnson regarding the Garnet and the alteration of the water there, I think, again, you know, it's good thinking outside the box. We've got obviously water issues coming down the pipe, so to speak, but we really want to be considering also and consulting with concerns about what's going to happen if we create a low water situation in Eneas Creek unexpectedly. So I'm sure that you're consulting, but just know that, you know, with further presentations, I'll be coming more prepared on that with questions on that. And then the last thing I just wanted to just say, touching on Mr. Mayor Waterman's report. I got involved in that school district potential decision that was going to impact Summerland so much because it was very different between the two communities. I think if what Penticton was facing was a cut and redistribution of the scale and size that we were facing, I probably would have gotten involved, but just, trying to fundraise, I don't know what I would have done. But when it was so different between the two communities is what brought me to the fore, because I didn't have children that were going to be severely impacted. Mine are a little bit older. So I appreciate Summerland recognizing that this is an ongoing issue, recognizing that we're a small community that's part of a bigger parcel, the way that the School District 67 is distributed right now. And I'm just very happy that there's more consultation. I also like to have the opportunity to say that throughout all of this, I know that Summerland Council and I know that I respect all of our teachers. And I'm very happy to hear that there's going to be some discussion about staffing. That's going to be in this as it rolls forward. And I know that there's going to be, it's super important to me because there were some things that happened last year that people misinterpreted or misunderstood, not from me, but from others, that all of our schools are valued in this community. I just wanted to make that point, and that all of our staff at all of those schools are very respected. So, and I know that that's going to be a big piece, and I know that would be the most challenging piece if there was any consideration of this pilot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? Hearing none. Anything from the press? Mr. Miller. It's good to see you tonight, sir.
Thank you. Ms. McIver is away for this meeting only, and it was a tough decision if I come here tonight or go to the school board. I know they're always excited to see me over there, so anyways, I thought I would come out here. I have numerous questions, but they will go...
Everybody is excited, Mr. Miller.
Yes, these will go quickly, though. First off, and I apologize because I am pinch hitting. What, in 50 words or less, is the job description of your community development coordinator?
Okay, I'll leave that to our It's to work with and coordinate activities with external groups, cultural groups, transit, any of our organizations in the community. So more of an I'm not doing a very good job of explaining, but being the liaison between the District of Summerland and any external community-oriented groups.
Okay, and is this a newly created position, and secondly, is it a full-time position?
It's a newly created position. We created the position in budget 2016. It was independent of the cultural plan. The cultural plan had also identified a need for a cultural coordinator. This is a broader spectrum, the culture being a part of it, so it's full-time yeah.
Thank you. Mayor Waterman, about your mayor's report, and again, I'm just asking questions, I'm not editorializing. You say this would be I don't want to say landmark's not the correct word, but a pilot project, something that could be done, but in all honesty, do you feel that this is a realistic project?
Well, I think given the constraints that all school districts and are feeling, are having, Summerland is nicely positioned as a small community, as a complete community in that we have our schools here. We used to be a separate school district, and I think there's the opportunity to try and meld the administrative aspects of both school and municipality on a relatively small scale to see how things might function. There are certainly a lot of complications, and I think I addressed some of those in that report. And it really merely opens the door for discussions with not only the Ministry of Education, but also with community groups and others, et cetera, to see how things might roll out. And as I pointed out at the very end, that you know, we need these discussions to be initiated to start now, because I don't see, if things can move forward, that there would be any change, of course, until the next election cycle.
Certainly, because is it fair to say that during discussions of tightening up the budget with education, the suggestion has been more to amalgamate school boards? I'd heard more than once that perhaps District 67 could amalgamate with District 53 geographically. So this would be very much against the grain of what's been suggested.
That's true, but I think the difficulties in terms of trying to integrate or amalgamate services within completely, say municipally as well with school district, would ultimately save considerably, potentially save more money. And so some of those questions sort of remain to be answered, and they need to be fleshed out and examined. We could easily run into complications that we can't overcome, but at the same time, I think this is a concept that could be looked at, you know, throughout the province. Okay. And I agree with you, up until now, it's been consolidation, as with hospital districts, et cetera, but in many cases it does leave small communities in a difficult position, as we've just found. Even with the amalgamation we've had here, Summerland found itself in considerable difficulty because the impact of closing one school here was huge. Not only would it have affected all of Trout Creek and the potential growth in Trout Creek, but it would have had a tremendous impact on all the students in the district, on how they would have been rearranged within the system that's here. And in fact, at that time, it was well recognized that Giant's Head was, for example, pretty much full at the seams, and yet it was going to be asked to be part of that mix without Trout Creek in place. So it would have been a difficult thing. We saw it being extremely difficult for Summerland's continued growth and health of the community to attract families.
May I just add?
Yes.
I think to Mr. Miller's point, certainly in initial preliminary conversations with the ministry, you're absolutely right. They're looking, if anything, at, or have been looking at, more amalgamation. But they're also highly interested in shared services, have been for many, many years. And shared services have been studied throughout the states, throughout back east, et cetera, and they should work, but they never do. You look at extensive studies in New York and in New Jersey. They've had whole departments trying to do between school boards and municipalities. And so we believe that we have the provincial government's ear, at least, in line with their desire to have this rural education strategy. Maybe there's a way of doing it different. And because there's already assets that are co-owned, this building being one of them, because there's not already an administration in place in Summerland, perhaps there's enough of those pieces that it could work here, and they could at least look at it as a pilot. That's where council kind of started with this idea.
I think
Certainly.
to add to that a little bit, when we talk shared services, if, for example, you were, I think this is what our CIO was implying, if you share, say, IT, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what does that mean, and are there really cost savings? There may be, but I think the experience that our CEO just said is that it's very, potentially very limited in terms of the cost savings. And we see that a full integration would be the way to go to save costs.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3 of 4. I know this is a stretch for it being on the agenda item, but I would like to ask you, and hopefully you could save me a phone call. You mentioned the UBCM convention that's coming up the 26th through the 30th. One of the items which may or may not, I can't quite get a concise answer, be on the agenda is the possibility of reintroducing recall legislation for municipal councils and the citizens having that option similar to what's done in the United States. If that were to come up, sir, would this council support the citizens' right to a recall?
I don't see why not. We'd be interested in the discussion, and I think it's you know, up to elected officials to behave in a manner where recall doesn't become a question.
Okay, thank you. And fourth question, Councillor Holmes had spoken detailed in his report about attracting families and the goal of what Summerland wants to do and being family-oriented and that sort of thing. So I guess what my question is would this council ever entertain the possibility of leasing public park space for a commercial water slide and miniature golf venture? Would that attract young families to Summerland?
That's really a difficult question. I understand it's a question that's being considered in other communities, and it obviously would bring a lot of concern. It's something that I guess one would have to go through appropriate consultation to determine whether that would be useful or not.
I see. But you do believe that, from the report, that arts type such things as festivals, music, reading, visual arts, that sort of thing, has been proven that it does attract people?
Yes, it does, and I think a really good example of that is our Shakespeare Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been an ongoing event, and it's, you know, I've been out of town at places, and actually I was camping this summer and ran into a family. This was up at, in Salmon Arm, when I was at the Blues Festival. And I didn't see you there, by the way. At any rate, there was a family across from us whose children participated in the Summerland Festival. So I think, and they really look forward to it.
And I'm sorry, this will be my final follow-up question. I realize I talked too much. Councillor Holmes, would you consider sports to be part of the cultural vision, or would that be a subheading or something all totally separate? Sports and, I guess, recreation.
I think it's kind of irrelevant whether I consider it or not.
Or would the committee, I guess, through all your research and consultation?
We on the task force decided, we had lots of discussions on whether we should define culture, what local culture is. And we decided we weren't going to define it, we were going to let the community define it. And the community defined it in terms of those 5 values.
Okay. Thank you for answering all my questions.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Arndt, any questions?
Nothing at this point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a motion for adjournment, please. Councillor Carlson, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.